Hi folks. So I'm back today and I thought I would show you my swatch book or swatch books. Now I know that there's a shadow here at the top and it's because I don't have any interior lights on because for the first part of this video I wanted to show you the covers of my swatch books and they're laminated. You can see that, a little bit of natural light coming through the window. And if I turn on my filming lights, you'll just get glare. So I wanted to just show the covers and then I'll turn on the lights. I love to swatch and I know not everyone does. And one of the reasons I love to swatch is because I don't have a lot of confidence in my coloring skills. So when I'm coloring, then I'm worrying about shadows and highlights, excuse me, and color combinations. But with swatches, I can just put, pencil or marker or paint to paper and play with them without having those worries. And I think it's really good to get to know your materials too. Now, I have to say, I might swatch too much. And you might think that when you see what I have to show you here. And maybe it's a bit of a, I don't know, a cop-out maybe for me a little bit, where, I probably should be pushing myself and doing, pictures and coloring pictures instead of just doing lots of swatching. But I'll get there. I'll get there. I made these swatch books by taking some scrapbooking paper. Now, I was never really into scrapbooking, but I did like the pattern papers, and I noticed they don't sell them as much anymore. I think because a lot of scrapbookers and card makers tend to like to make their own backgrounds and papers, and that's, fantastic. This paper and the other papers that came, or that I used to make my other swatch books came from, and I'll just move this out of the way a sec. It was this paper pad. And I highly doubt you can get it anymore. It was Kofi designer paper. It's double-sided, it's a 12 by 12, and it came with these stickers. So, just going back to my swatch book here, that's how I made the title here. So what I did was I took a piece of the double-sided paper for the cover, and I just cut it down to, it's slightly bigger than 8.5 by 11, just so it made a slightly bigger cover. And I took a picture or pattern that I liked. So this is kind of pussy holes in the front. And then I took another, this actually isn't the pattern that's on the back side of this. This was a different pattern I liked. And I glued them together, or taped them together. And then I laminated them. So it makes a fairly thick, sturdy cover. I also ran a bit of clear packing tape just around the edges, just because so I laminated them and then I cut the extra lamination off, and I just wanted to make sure that the edges stayed together. To do the titles here, I cut a little strip of a different pattern of paper from that book and did the same thing there, and then just put the stickers on, and I glued those on before I laminated it. So there's a fair number of layers going on here. And then the back, again, is just a different pattern that I really liked. The inside, another pattern. And I actually have 3 different swatch books, and I'll explain why in a second. So I did the same thing here. And I think these all came from that same Kofi book. I just really, really liked the patterns that were in that book. This one, it's got the old style kind of skep, I think they call them, or beehive. And then, just again, some of the similar patterns. That was a pretty one on the back too, with robins. Yeah. And butterflies. Those pattern papers were so pretty, and I thought this was a good way to use them. I even, this was a long time ago, I made bookmarks. I know this isn't coloring related, but I did. So I took some of the pattern paper and cut, I have a bunch of those Martha Stewart. I don't know if anybody's familiar with them. They're stamps, or not stamps, punches. And they would punch different shapes. So then I just sort of layered up the paper, laminated these, punched a hole, and this is just undyed, it feels like linen or something, like, not quite linen, maybe just cotton. There's a name for it. I'll remember it. But yeah, and a lot of those earth tone colors that I really like. These kinds of things. I did this when my daughter was small, and so I made bookmarks for myself, and then I made, these are all kind of my fall colored ones. Then I made sort of fun ones for her. So there's Halloween. And then the back, I think these are just a single layer. So this is the same pattern, or the pattern that would have been on the obverse, there's a word, of the front one. And then I cut a smaller piece of either white or cream paper to sort of create like a frame effect, and then just punched out the shapes. I don't know. I thought they were kind of fun. But anyway, it's just, now these papers didn't necessarily come from that Tim Coffey book, the Halloween ones. I had a different book that had, Halloween style papers. I've got some Christmas ones too, but yeah, just all fun stuff to do with the pattern papers. I also did these, and this was, again, this is pattern paper. I just made the covers. This is Sarah Renee Clark's color catalog. I printed it out, and this was before she had the cubes. Now I have the cubes, and they're wonderful, and they're, I mean, truly even better, because when I printed this, I wasn't sure if printers are different, right? So I wasn't sure if what I was printing, if the color that was coming out on the printer was actually what she meant. Now that I have the color cubes, they come directly from her, so I know that the colors are what they're supposed to be. And of course the colors on the cards in the color cube also go right to the edge. So, but yeah, there's just some more patterns. I really like those pattern papers. The reason I have 3 swatch books is this is my main swatch book. And I think what I'll do here is, just to get rid of that top shadow, just give me a moment here. I know, the camera's gonna I'm gonna open this up. Just to get rid of, and I'm gonna turn on the light on the other side. There. Now hopefully we got rid of that shadow and we won't get too much glare off the cover. This is my main swatch book where I have all the swatching done on mixed media paper. So that is the Accent Opaque digital, I think it's 65 pound. And so I do my swatching on that. I have in this book pretty much, I would say almost everything swatched. I think there's some things that I've picked up recently that I don't have swatched in here. This is the Artex 126 pencils. You'll notice that some of these, I believe this one came from Color with Claire. She puts them in color families. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful resource that she offers for free. So colorwithclaire.com, you can go there. And then I believe she offers them on her Kofi page, maybe? These ones came from Jennifer Stay at Coloring Bliss. And so I just use that for Arteza Real Brush watercolor pens. I won't flip through this whole thing, but I'm just sort of showing you, the different swatches I have in here. This was the Blick Studio brush markers. I don't have them all. I just swatched out the ones that I had. Brufiner squares. Some of these I bought from, this is by BeckysDIY color charts from Etsy. I'll show you here. So I will sometimes purchase swatch charts from those kinds of companies on Etsy. This was also BeckysDIY color charts. This is another Color with Claire. Some of them I kind of take inspiration from sort of color charts that I've seen, and I make my own. I think this is one I made on my own. So this is the few Caran d'Ache museum aquarels that I have. I don't have a full set. But this was a neat idea that oh my goodness, I should remember where I got it from. But someone had produced swatch pages for media that was meant to be used either dry or wet, so things like Albrecht Dürer's, or in this case, museum aquarels. And I don't know if you can see here, I'll try and lift it up. there is a column on the swatch chart there. So you've got your number, color name. There is a column there to do dry, and then you can do it wet. So you actually end up having a swatch that's both, you know, the dry color and the wet color, which is kind of, it's kind of neat. Sorry, I had to pause there. My husband came in and had to ask me a few questions. So yeah, this is the Caran d'Ache Museum Aquarelle, the few that I have. And down here at the bottom, I just added on just a little extra bit of, you can see there, of the chart. Those are the few, what are the student grade ones called? Supercolor. And when I have, when there's a set of pencils that I'm not sure if I want them all, I will buy a few open stock, and I always tend to buy the greens just because that's the color, because I like to color a lot of landscapes and nature stuff. Green is the color that I tend to need a lot of. So I buy greens, I see how I like them, and then go from there. So yeah, just keeps going. Again, Neocolor 2s, we've got dry and wet. So this was from Becky's DIY. So she must have been the one that I got the idea from to do the dry and the wet separate columns on swatch charts. And I think it's great because sometimes you do want to see what the color looks like dry. Sometimes you want to see what it looks like wet. This has both. What I did with this particular color chart is I also added in, I have the Neocolor 1s and 2s, and rather than having a separate chart for the Neocolor 1s, whatever colors of the Neocolor 2s also had Neocolor 1s, I just put the Neocolor 1 over here sort of next to the name. So Sahara Yellow, for example, you can see that there. So we've got the dry and the wet for the Neocolor 2, and then the Neocolor 1 I just sort of put there. Same thing with Salmon. The only color that I found in the Neocolor 1s that didn't have a corresponding Neocolor 2 color was 640 Dark Ultramarine. So I just put it over to the side here. And then the Neocolor 1 Metallics, I put on the bottom here. The ones that didn't have a corresponding color in the Neocolor 2s. Silver, gold, and bronze did. So I just put the Neocolor 1s there. So just there's some Castle Arts there. I've got different charts. There's Copics, the ones I have. I don't have them all. I also mark on my color charts, and this is a good example, I think. Hold it up here. So with the Copics, I will put a little R if I have a refill for them. And if there's 2 R's, it means I actually have 2 refills. And if I have more than one pen of a particular color, I will just put a little mark. And I do those marks with an erasable pen. Let's see if I can find which one it is. Here it is. It is a Pilot. Focus there. Oh, there's some glare from the lights. Hopefully it's not too bad. It's Frixion, Frixion. And Pilot makes these Frixion pens. They also make erasable highlighters, which is brilliant. See if I can find one of those. There's one. So they make erasable pens. They make erasable highlighters, which as a teacher, that's fantastic because you can erase the highlighting. So when I run out of, or if one of my pens runs out, then I can just erase the little mark, so I can sort of keep a running tally, and then I can know what I have in terms of extras, refills, that sort of thing. I will also do that with pencils, and I will show you on. There's a good one to show. So there's Graphitint. Again, I've got the dry colors, and this was even more interesting. And I don't remember if this was Becky's DIY that I got the idea from. Hopefully the glare on here isn't too bad. I apologize if it is. So not only do I have dry and wet, and then I've got an extra line down there that is just so I can see the opacity. So if it looks like the wet, there's sort of 2 little rectangles there for wet. It's actually just one rectangle with a black line down so I can see. Now, during wet Graphitint, there's no opacity there, so the line is, you can see it. But these sort of columns here, this is dark, or sort of, this would have been doing the dry here, that's burnishing pressure. And then medium pressure, dry and wet, light pressure, dry and wet. This is a lot of swatching, but like I said before, I really do enjoy swatching. So this is neat to do this, because then you can see, you know, that's what port 01 in Derwent Graphitint looks like, sort of burnishing pressure. And then I laid down a fairly heavy amount of it and then dragged it out with, probably, if I had to guess, this feels like I used probably a Tombow colorless blender, and then laid it down sort of medium pressure, and then some medium pressure, and then dragged it out again with the Tombow, and then light. Did it that way. And then here's a good one. So this is Derwent, my Derwent Light Fast chart. And you can see all these little marks here. So this tells me right now I have 2 of the champagne, I have 1 banana, 1 sun yellow, 2 of the mustard, 1 yellow, 2 of the gold. I have 4 Derwent reds, just because that's a color that, and I believe I mentioned that in my previous video where I was talking about my Polychromos Plus pencil set. That's just, and this was Lindsay the Frugal Crafter, wonderful, wonderful lady. On her recommendation, one of the videos that she had, she was talking about it's difficult in colored pencil sets to find a true sort of neutral red, and the Derwent red is one that she's found. So I've got a number of those. So then we've just got, you can see all the little marks. So I have 1 of most of these, but there are a few. The foliage one I've got 4 of, just because, again, greens, right? Greens are what I use a lot of. So if I come down to the bottom a bit here, I don't know if we can see that or not. There we go. I have some extra Derwent pencils. I don't have a full set of the artist pencils. I don't have a full set of the Pro Color, but the few that I do, I just thought I would add on to this swatch chart, just so I didn't have a full swatch chart with only, you know, a few things. I did for the Caran d'Ache Museum, but I didn't figure it was worth it just for, you know, a few colors, just to make a full swatch chart that would be mostly empty. So I just added them onto the bottom. So I believe the ones on the bottom here are the few Pro Colors that I have. I think the 8 to Sunset Gold and Autumn Leaf, those are Pro Colors. I think these 2 over here in the end, the May Green and the Cedar Green, I think those are artist pencils. These over to the side, Midnight Forest Raven, those are Derwent artist colors. And then up here, you can barely see them, Arctic, Oyster, and Pure, those are Derwent artist pencils as well. Those are sort of their shades. It was a 6 pencil pack, and it was like lights and darks or something of the Derwent artist pencils. And they had those 3 light colors, Arctic, Oyster, and Pure, and then 3 dark colors, Midnight, Forest, and Raven. And they're different. The Midnight is like a bluey black, Forest greeny black, Raven is black, Arctic is white, Oyster is almost more of a very faint blue-white, and Pure is a very faint, or no, pardon me, Oyster is sort of a very faint pink-white, and Pure is a very, very faint yellow-white. So, yeah. Here I've got a page taken out of, oh my goodness, now I'm going to forget the name. It's the color chart book. Oh my gosh, I'll try and remember to put it on the screen. But it was the Caran d'Ache Luminance and Lightfast combo chart, and it's 2 pages. I put a tab here just so I can find that easily in this book. The book is organized, or I organized it, by alphabetically, usually by manufacturer name. So you notice at the very beginning there was Artex was the first one, right? And then we've been going on. We've looked at Caran d'Ache. Now we looked at some Derwent. So I'm going alphabetically. So there's the 2 pages of those 100 Luminance and 100 Lightfast combined and then put into color order. So this is super handy just to know that those 2, you know, what they look like. And then I've got some more. There's the Derwent watercolor paints. I don't have all the Derwent watercolor pencils, but these are the ones I do have. And again, we've got, let's see that. We've got the dry and wet for dark, medium, and light for those. I guess I should maybe zoom in a bit. Guess I don't have to be quite that far out, do I? Got the Distress ink colors here. Oh yeah, I do if I turn it the other way. Oops. There we go. These extras, I believe those are the only two sprays I have for the Distress colors. And I don't have any of the latest, I don't have the latest 3. I only buy the little small 1-inch mini cubes. And I think Tim Holtz is going to release one last color. And then there should be the last set of 4 of the little mini cubes. So I'm waiting for that. I have a few of the Distress Oxide sprays. I have a few of the Delusion ink sprays. These are just charts that I downloaded from Ranger, I think. Derwent shimmer spray.
This is future editing, Connie. Darn it. Not Derwent sprays. Delusion shimmer sprays.
And then we're into Faber-Castell. And Faber-Castell is, I would say, one of my favorite, if not the favorite that I have in terms of art materials. And I'm going to zoom in a bit here. So this is the Albrecht Dürer watercolor pencil set. Again, we've got dry and wet. This doesn't have dark, medium, and light, just has the dry and the wet. And off to the side here, I've got swatched. I also have the Albrecht Dürer watercolor markers. And so I just put those off to the side with the matching color. So it's nice because I can have at a glance, I can see the pencils and the markers. I can see, you know, that I have, yeah, just the colors that match up. I have some Gold Faber stuff as well. This is the Aqua Dual markers. Faber-Castell is coming out with Gold Faber alcohol markers, and I'm curious about those. I know that, I think they're out, I shouldn't say I know, I think they're out in the UK and Europe, but they're not here in Canada or the US yet, that I've seen. So, there's some Gold Faber colored pencils. I've got on here the Gold Faber pencils, the Gold Faber Aqua watercolor pencils, both dry and wet. And I like having them swatched next to each other like this because you can compare, and I believe I mentioned before, Faber-Castell has that color matching across their lines. Their artist lines, their Pitt pens and the polychromos, the color matching is fabulous. When you get into the Gold Faber line, it's okay. It's not perfect. And I believe, I'm not sure if I have it in here, might do that in another video. I made up charts so that I could have all of the Faber-Castell products that had color names and numbers, so whether it be their artist range or the Gold Faber range, I swatched them all out in sort of a continuous row for each color, just so I could see how the color matching was for one particular color in the Faber-Castell line. So, you know, like 107, what did it look like in all the different Faber-Castell media that I have? So maybe I'll show that in a separate video. But yeah, this is, I sort of did a little bit of that here. So I tried to combine when I could, and I realized it gave me kind of small swatches. But, I mean, it works. It works okay for me. So this is Faber-Castell. This is the Pitt pencils, pastel pencils, the soft pastels, the oil pastels, and their 48 watercolor pans. And again, I would just put, you know, here we've got, for example, where's one that's got all 4 colors? I'm trying to find, I don't think, oh, there is, maybe over here. So here we've got Venetian Red, 190. That's the third row down here, so kind of right where my thumb is. Right below it is Sanguine, and that is in all 4 of those. So the first column, Pitt pastel pencils, second column, soft pastels, third column, oil pastels, and the last column, watercolors. So yeah, I did that. So again, I'm not going to flip through this whole book, but I've got, you know, some of my metallic media in the back, metallic paints. You can see the shine. So that's CSY, art gallery paints. Maybe I'll do some collection videos later. Sometimes I would have the swatch charts done on, this is Canson watercolor paper. So it's not always the mixed media paper. Sometimes it's watercolor paper. That's the Paul Rumens 48 set. That's just some various, ooh, look at this sparkle on that. So I've got some stickles on there, some liquid pearls. This is a fun page. This is kind of metallic. So this is metallic, or a lot of the seasonal distress crayons that Tim Holtz has. And they do have a bit of shimmer. I don't know if it picks it up or not. The gelatos that I have, they are all kind of the specialty ones that either are metallic or iridescent. And again, I don't know if you can pick up the shimmer or not. I've got some, the set of Sennelier iridescent oil pastels. So I've got those, we've got red, gold, aluminum kind of there. And I've got, I think, all the FW pearlescent inks. And that's the ones you can kind of really see shimmer on there. So it's just kind of handy to have swatches of the different, I have to go a bit here. There we go. Swatches of the different media that I use. And again, I like organizing. I really do like organizing, swatching. Sorry, I'm just kind of flipping now because I figure you're probably getting kind of bored with this. There's some, those are the 10-minute glitter gel pens. If anybody does want me to go through this more slowly and take a longer look at this, just let me know in the comments below, and I can. So there's the Spectrum Noir, there's the Tricolor, the Tri-Blends. There's Prismacolors. There's some of the Pan Pastels and Jane Davenport pastels that I have. Lyra Rembrandt. There's Koh-i-Noor Polycolors. King Art Gel Sticks. Dry and Wet. There's the Holbeins. So yeah. So again, this is kind of my main swatch book. And then I do have some of my media and materials swatched on black. Not all, because some there's no point. Quite often I try to do my colored pencils on black because, there you can. This is the Arctics 126 set. And you know what? They show up pretty good on black. If there's media that I have in the other book that's just on mixed media paper, sometimes I'll include a swatch in here on, this is the Coloring Bliss watercolor paper. So sometimes I'll swatch on watercolor paper in here. There's the Black Widows on black paper. Brute Funner Squares on black paper. That's Caran d'Ache Luminance on black paper. Look how great they look on black. And again, this chart is sideways. I just didn't want to be flipping back and forth. This is the few museum aquarelles that I have on watercolor paper instead. Kind of no point to put those on black, so I just put them on watercolor paper. Same thing with the Neocolor 2s. They're, once you activate them, they're not really going to show up on black, so I just did them on watercolor paper here. So yeah. At the end here, I've got, some metallic paints and things that I have, either on black or watercolor paper. There's the Paul Rumens metallic 48 set on black. Ooh, they look good. Some of the stickles and things that I have on black. So yeah, so this book just, either watercolor paper or on black. That's the whole mine's on black. And then I have one more because I did swatch some of the things I have on Tantone. Because I do sometimes scan and print out coloring pages on Tantone. So it's interesting to see what things look like on Tantone, and organizing and swatching just makes me happy. So I do a lot of it. So yeah, this is a lot of, just... And again, I didn't do everything because there's some things that I just maybe wouldn't use on Tantone, so... And at the very end of this book, I do have some stamps. And I really, really like Lavinia Stamps. So what I did was I took some fairly good, this is not cardstock, it's just paper, but I stamped out the ones that I have and then put them in here so that I know what I have. And I like a lot of Lavinia Stamps trees and things just to add to the backgrounds of coloring pages. Just, you know, branches and some florals, trees. I would love to get into art journaling. There is a lady that I watch videos, Lisa Taggart, inkybliss, on YouTube. Amazing, amazing. She does amazing pictures with mostly Lavinia Stamps, the sprays, which is kind of one of the reasons I got a lot of those sprays that I was showing the swatch for earlier, the Delusions and some of the Distress Oxide sprays. I would love to start doing what she does, but I don't know. I'm kind of scared. I should just jump in. I should not be scared. But, and then, I don't actually remember. This was a catalog of some kind, and I just printed out some pages that had some of the Tim Holtz stencils, and then I just highlighted the ones that I had. To me, that was an easy way for me to, and I don't have, you know, a lot of them, but then it was just easier for me to know what I had. You know, I have set 4, set 10. I don't have the rest of them on here. And then I did make a little swatch at the very end of this one of some of the, actually this is all the washi tape I have. I don't have a whole lot of that either. So I have solid colors. I have a few patterns there. Some patterns on the other side. And I think that's about it. So, not a whole lot. A little bit of Christmas and Halloween there. And then I put some of the washi tape on just some black. This is just cheap black. Feels like construction paper. Just to see what they would look like in black. Again, not great. And stuck them in here. And that's it. That is just my swatch books. That's how I organize things. Oh, sorry for the glare there. I've got 2 lights on. You can see them. I think in the next video, maybe what I'll talk about is the binding that you can see on these swatch books. Because it is different. It's spiral binding, but you can do it at home, and you can open and close it as many times as you want, which is great for swatch books because, you know, you get something new, you want to put it in there, or you want to reorganize your swatch books. It's tough when you've got your swatches in sort of a permanently bound book, because then you know, it's tougher to move the pages around. So this is great. That's why I was able to keep things in alphabetical order, because I can keep moving the pages. So I'll keep this kind of tilted so it's not so glared. Thanks for sticking with. I hope everyone is well. I hope you're safe, and I hope you're enjoying your coloring. Alrighty, bye-bye.